huge win by the Knicks, but also kind of expected. It's the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls are now 15-21. I got to be real with you. Was really expecting the Knicks to win this game regardless. Yes, the Knicks managed to find a way to make it a little bit more difficult than it needed to be, but expected nonetheless. OG Anunoby having astronomical plus minus in this game. I think he's plus 56 to start off in his 2 games as a New York Knick. Hell, DeMar DeRozan had the game of his life until OG Anunoby threw him immediately into prison. Julius Randle having another phenomenal game. I think it's time we start talking about maybe Julius MVP Randle. Y'all not ready for that. Y'all not ready for that. Jalen Brunson doing something I've been asking and praying for since after his first year being a New York Knick. Back-to-back 20 and 10 plus games. He had his career high 14 assists on Monday. Everything looked good. Isaiah Hartenstein balling out the way that he's been balling, a block machine, a rebound machine. He had 7 offensive rebounds in this game, which was more than literally every other player on the Chicago Bulls, not named Andre Drummond. So the Knicks did what they're supposed to do, handled business. We got a big game on Friday against Philly. But what I want to talk about is something that I feel like is on everybody's mind. We just made a very rare December trade. I mean, it was at the very end, but it's a December trade nonetheless. And it brought us the defensive anchor. And already in his first 2 games, the New York Knicks went from having other teams scoring like this on us to now in these 2 games scoring like this on us. The defensive side is figuring itself out with this new acquisition, but we do need offense. But who's the move going to be? Somebody big like a Karl-Anthony Towns or Donovan Mitchell. A lot to talk about. I know this intro is long, but we're going to get into it right now. Run the intro. What's good, CK Cruz, your boy CK2K, and welcome back to another video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Do not forget to like this video. People, big trade just happened. OG Anunoby already off to a great start, doing what we've expected from him in his first 2 games. Big test coming up Friday against a very hot Philadelphia 76ers, but for the most part, OG's instant impact has already played its part. But now the main thing with OG Anunoby is, even though the defense is there, we're also seeing that our scoring is not quite there. I mentioned it in the last video. I'm waiting to see who's ultimately going to be that guy that's going to step up. And even if we do have somebody on our team step up, is it somebody that you can trust consistently? I mean, do you expect Quentin Grimes to consistently bring his points up per game in his 3rd season in a lesser role? I don't know. Donte DiVincenzo has shown signs, but then he fizzed out a little bit last night in that game. So do you have anybody that you ultimately can trust that is going to give you those 15 points a game off the bench, or give you that other 20 point per game scorer in the starting unit? And I feel like this is the reason why a lot of people are going back to the whole conversation of the Knicks can't be done here. And that's the fact. The Knicks can't be done here. I mean, we know that there is a world where the Knicks most likely might be done here, because we've seen it in the past where we expect the Knicks have to make that move before the deadline, and then the deadline comes and we're watching everybody else get moved, but nobody going to the Knicks. So there is that little bit of fear, just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that case. I think the New York Knicks have done a good job positioning themselves to get somebody, but now the question is the magnitude of that somebody, because either way, we need somebody that's going to come in here and provide offense while also continuing to allow this team to rise how they have been in the last few games defensively, and also understand the totem pole of Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and everyone else. I mean, let's start at the top. There's a lot of names that the Knicks have circled on their notebook as far as starters that they would want to bring on this team. I mean, we've had a love affair with New York's own Donovan Mitchell for a few years now. Donovan Mitchell is over there doing his thing in Cleveland, but the writing's on the wall that he does not have a plan to stay with Cleveland going forward. So knowing that Donnie wants to be out, and more so than that, you know he wants to be a Knick. I mean, the dude's literally at Mets games every summer, but that's neither here nor there. There is a lot that could be done between the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers making a move, but the problem now is the assets. Yes, we do have a good amount of first-round picks that can get you Donovan, but you're going to need more than that to get an all-star level player like Donovan Mitchell. I mean, hell, ever since he's come into the league, he's been an all-star scoring beast in the league. Regardless of how you feel about him, his height, the lack of defense, whatever, Donovan Mitchell has been a key component in the league since he's been here. So to just give up a bunch of draft picks and possibly Evan Fournier is not going to land you Donovan Mitchell. You needed a piece like Emmanuel Quickly or RJ Barrett or both of them to do that. And now we flip those for OG Anunoby, and it makes it seem like it's a little bit harder to get Donnie. It's not impossible, but it's going to be a lot harder because the Cavaliers are going to want something in return for him because they don't want to completely leave any thoughts or chances they think they have at taking a shot at getting a championship. Again, that's any thoughts they have. And I feel like that conversation also goes to Karl-Anthony Towns. I want to connect that. I also want to say this. No, thank you. I would much rather what I have right now with Julius Randle. Julius Randle, I feel like is, for whatever reason, continues to get disrespected. Look, I was one of the many. I've never been the craziest Julius Randle fan, but the minute that Julius Randle stopped settling for dumb jump shots, stopped settling for threes and started attacking the paint, shooting more efficiently, looking to pass a lot more frequently, all my worries about Julius Randle have literally been gone. Yeah, he has a few knuckleheaded moves, but by this time last year, Julius Randle had at least 10 mental breakdowns at this point. And coming into this season, I can really only remember about 2 or 3 of them this year. And we've had a worse start right now than we did last year. So Julius Randle, in my opinion, has done above and beyond where he's been in the past to be the player that he is right now. And I joked in the beginning, but his stats and the team's play and what he's done don't lie, where we could have a conversation about him at least being in the conversation for MVP. Again, saving that for another video. But I'm saying all this to say this. Karl-Anthony Towns, I know it's a thought out there. I know the Knicks are looking into it, but I truthfully don't believe anybody in that front office would be willing to swap Julius Randle for Karl-Anthony Towns just because of where Karl-Anthony Towns is from. This front office seems to pride themselves on the fact that they handpicked Julius Randle from free agency, paid him, and he's panning out the way he's panning out. I don't think that they just get rid of that in hopes that Karl-Anthony Towns all of a sudden remembers how to just consistently be a star each and every night, including the playoffs. Julius Randle, to me, is literally just one good playoff run from being that guy that we need to start taking serious as a star, as a superstar level player in New York. He just needs to have that playoff run, and then that's about it, because we know what he does in the regular season. But so I'm saying all that to say, Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about 2 stars, and that is Donovan Mitchell, who I mentioned, and I feel like we cannot get without having to include someone like Julius, which I don't want to do, but there's someone else that I feel like there's a bigger chance on, and that's Dejounte Murray. Now, I've wanted Dejounte Murray before there was even a Jalen Brunson in the conversation. I wanted Dejounte Murray before his hair was cut. Now he's in Atlanta, and it seems like that love affair between Dejounte and the Knicks has not gone away. The hints are all around about Dejounte Murray and the Atlanta Hawks with the combination of him and Trae Young. I don't know why people thought that that was magically going to work. It just has not worked for that team. And we've heard Landry Fields, we've heard a lot in the front office over in Atlanta talk about wanting to shift things up. And I think that the thought process would be to just let that be Trae Young's team and whatever that means to them, and swapping out Dejounte Murray for some draft picks and some smaller pieces. We can give them more scoring in Fournier. We can give them some more big depth in Jericho Sims. Hell, we could even give them a guy like Quentin Grimes, who on this team is having a hard time figuring out his role and can go over there and easily be that two-way that they give up to Kevin Huerter. And on top of that, draft picks. The Dejounte Murray swap is something that is more realistic to me than a Donovan Mitchell at this set in time. For people who are just trying to figure out why Knicks fans and the Knicks are so intrigued in Dejounte Murray, it's the simple fact that Dejounte Murray just adds that extra element that we need right now. More playmaking. He does not drop off at all for us defensively. I mean, at one point in San Antonio, he was one of the better defensive point guards in the league. Dropped off a little bit since he's been in Atlanta, but I'm sure that player is still there when he's actually playing for something. And he's only improved offensively from the field. So Dejounte Murray definitely would be somebody that fits really well. You start him, and you also can stagger the minutes between him, Dante, and Jalen Brunson at that guard position as the night goes on, and it makes it a little bit easier for Tom Thibodeau to move around minutes and stuff like that. So it just makes sense to go for Dejounte. Dejounte, for me, is the big key move for us to go and get, and I don't think it's as impossible as a move like for Karl-Anthony Towns, for those who want that, or Donovan Mitchell. But those are the conversations for any real starters. I don't think that there's a Zach Lavine conversation anymore. I don't think that's a realistic thing. He's in and out of the depth charts. He's injured. He's not injured. He's injured. He's not injured. And we already know about the whole situation between Clutch and I just don't think that that's happening. There might be still a fire for DeMar DeRozan. I mean, we saw how DeMar DeRozan played against us. He played really well. So I know that that fire is probably still there. Don't know if the Knicks really go after that, especially since he's also going to be a free agent, a lot like OG Anunoby. So how much do you want to put stock in guys that might not be here the year after next? So I'm not looking at those guys anymore, and there's no other real names I think that the Knicks can go make a move for, but anything is possible. I mean, we've thrown around names like Lauri Markkanen, not sure how much realness there is there. But those are the starters. Those are the stars that the Knicks could possibly come in and bring to this team that would give us some more offense, but also not mess up what we're getting ready to build on our final push into the playoffs this year and for the long term. But what if we went towards depth? To me, I feel like if we get some good depth pieces or a good depth scorer that can also add with OG Anunoby in the starting unit with what we got with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, I think that might also be a good option. I'm talking about other names that can come off the bench, that have a history of coming off the bench, but also being scorers. I know a lot of people are really hooked on to Jordan Clarkson, which I think would be a great name, especially with how poorly Utah has played. There might be a world where we can throw them picks because they want to stay young, they're rebuilding. You could throw them picks in the Fournier to get a Jordan Clarkson, but also we remember that Jordan Clarkson's defense is not typically consistent. Could be definitely good, especially if he's going to go out there and give us about 15, 16, 17 on average a night off the bench. We should be able to play around it and be okay. But he's a good option. But the names that I'm heavily circled around and I'm a little bit more intrigued in are names like Terry Rozier. I'm looking at Malcolm Brogdon, and my real dark horse, Anfernee Simons. How possible is that? Anfernee Simons, in my opinion, I feel like got a raw deal in Portland. I think once they drafted Scoot Henderson, it was ultimately written in stone that any possibility of Anfernee Simons being the next up with Damian Lillard on his way out was out the window, because now you instantly draft that guard that's supposed to be their potential corner piece, and Anfernee Simons once again stays in the wayside. And now it gets even worse because now Shaedon Sharpe is also appearing to be a potential future star for this team, and now that puts Anfernee Simons even deeper in the depth chart. So I feel like there's a world where you can give this Portland Trailblazers team that's already committed to the rebuild, you give them draft picks, give them another shooting vet in Fournier, and you're able to pry away Anfernee Simons, who's getting ready to finish out his deal over there. And he can come to this team and instantly be that extra point guard that we need that can help out Jalen Brunson off the bench and also provide consistent scoring for this team. Anfernee Simons is my dark horse where I have my eye on. There's been nothing mentioned about it, but I'm keeping my eye on it. Malcolm Brogdon, too, just does not fit the landscape of what's going on in Portland anymore. He's a vet that's looking to try and win or be a part of a winning culture when Portland is still rebuilding and figuring themselves out. My only beef with Malcolm Brogdon, I don't like the contract. Not a fan of that contract. I feel like we can get the same thing from the guy that's across from him in Anfernee Simons, or even someone like Terry Rozier. I know because he's on the Charlotte Hornets, we don't tend to think about Terry Rozier anymore like that. Terry Rozier is just on an organization scoring points. That's about it. But I feel like Terry Rozier is somebody that if there's any type of way to replace what Emmanuel quickly provided for us as a spark, as a scorer, Terry Rozier is somebody that I'm interested in. Still a little skeptical because he's another one of those injury-prone guys. He's another one of those guys that could be a black hole defensively, but he does give you nights where he plays a little aggressive and maybe he buys in. But Terry Rozier, though, too, lands in that same spot as Malcolm Brogdon in finances, but he definitely provides that scoring aspect. So those are the depth guys that I'm keeping my eye on. But I'm telling you guys, looking at Anfernee Simons, I'm keeping my eye on you, Mr. Anfernee Simons. A lot of trade pieces, a lot of trade possibilities, but what says you? Do you think the New York Knicks set their eyes on getting that other all-star type player to go into the starting lineup to pair up with Brunson in the front court? Or do you think that the Knicks do look at these disgruntled depth pieces that can give you points off of the bench, like the names I mentioned or names that you might have in the chat? What says you? But ultimately, if the Knicks want to make this OG trade truthfully mean something and make it work where we want to keep him long term and also still be a next step up from a first, maybe second round exit to a possible contender in the East, the Knicks need to make that move, and I do believe we have the assets to do it. We either use the assets to go get us to Dejounte Murray, or we hope and pray that we have enough finances to convince Donovan Mitchell, when he's a free agent, if he doesn't get traded to a team where he really likes, can come and be with the Knicks. A lot of possibilities, but let me know your thoughts about everything in the comments below. Big win against Chicago, but expected. Talked about trades. Let me know your thoughts about all that. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Do not forget to like this video. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another play-by-play Knicks versus Sixers. Can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts. 2-0 in 2024. Let's get it.
Cold pizza like Tuesday. I got food up in the fridge. Y'all keep looking for that new wave. I think I like it how it is.